So, can I talk on this one?
Yeah, you can just talk over it as we go. I can pause in slow-mo. I do notice that he's coming off and out to that first puck.
Okay. So the idea here is, okay, the still the 5 pucks, removing puck 3, which is your center one.
Okay.
You don't have to be as dramatic, like rolling out with both feet to the pucks. The whole idea behind it is you should start. It's probably my fault. Okay, stop here at the top of the crease. Or are you able to bring it back a bit?
I can.
Okay, if this location right here, if this was the starting point of the drill, the whole concept and thought process behind this is you're moving sometimes just outside of the post, which would be puck 1. But the idea behind this is there are times in games where you end up outside of the post of where you're familiar or like where you want to play. But you got to get back up on your feet if it's a save or whatever the reason is and get inside that post again. And then typically the play goes to the other side. So the idea behind this was, this isn't the depth. This isn't how I want you to come off the post. This isn't anything to do with what we're trying to teach our goalie to do. But we've seen enough patterns in games where they move away and then need to recover back to the post and get to the other side of the net. So it was just, all right, let's just see how this looks. Let's go from puck 2 to puck 1 and then work on your feet, getting back inside that post and finding it with speed and comfort. That's all this is. So if we do play it, see, and you do end up at times on your knees or making a save and getting back up. Yeah. And then you got to get back inside that post. That's all we're really trying to focus on.
Is that movement, getting comfortable with that is the big one.
That's the objective of the drill. And then he's over rotating. I would never tell my guy, that's how I want you to face on that angle. I'm just trying to get him to move in scenarios that are outside and get inside your post. That's all we're trying to do. And I think we just rushed through the drill most likely. But see now his feet, he's got to get back inside and then move post to post. That's all we're trying to do there.
Just get back, putting him in an uncomfortable spot and sort of getting comfortable solving an uncomfortable situation.
But I will ask anybody watching this video, watch some games of goalies that regardless of the level, on that angle, they will be outside the post and got to get back inside of that post quick. It does happen. And it could be a play on the goal line, the rebound goes below the goal line and now there's a jam or a stuff. That's all we're trying to do is get the goalie to learn to get inside that post quick.
Well, even on I guess you'd have a different approach, but like even on a rush that becomes where you're out on a rush and stepping back and it gets into a sharp angle situation on the rush. If you're outside of your post, you have to be able to get inside and then come across.
Yeah, 100%. And this video probably isn't the best to represent it, but it at least will give you a theory of what we're trying to do.
The same kind of philosophy that's on part 1, and then
so this is we just call it the post out series. Again, unfortunately, this is another rehab skate for Uko. I think he has an MCL issue here, but it's the 5 puck concept and just trying to come from your post out to those 5 different locations and back to the post into your RVH. That's the kind of concept behind this here. And just being comfortable and familiar with moving back to your post in the different positions in the net.
Okay. And so I just noticed on the last puck, like when he's going from, I guess in this case, 5 back to 1, rather than coming across on his knees, he comes up. Is that just a part of the recovery? Or is that like, would you normally be that Not this one, but the next one.
The next one, let me just watch it. It might just be his preference of what he, yeah, that's just kind of what he does. It's his own little thing within the drill. And I'm not too particular to make them be it a certain way. I just want them, however mechanically they're comfortable to move from those points in the net.
Okay. And so nothing changes. You're just trying to work on, again, the 5 pucks stay the same. How you're moving, in this case, out of reverse versus shuffles changes. But you're just working on repetition and trying to build speed in them?
Yeah, it's just exactly repetition to build, just make sure the mechanics will grow. Everyone's different and everyone struggles. Maybe the blocker side is better, or the glove side is weaker, or whatever it is. I just try to play around with it, and we just feel like we have a big library of drills, and we usually go 2 or 3 reps for each drill, and that's it. But it's just to make sure they're not being one-dimensional in how they move or what they can do. It's just making sure all the areas are getting touches and types of movements they need to focus on. And I mean, I'm sure you could really technically pick it apart if you wanted to, but the concept is just getting in, getting out of the post with some fluidity and making it, comfortable for the goalie.
Is this something Seamus you do like a warm-up skate? Like obviously it's a rehab skate in both of these drills for UPL, but where would you work this into a practice? At the end of it, beginning, just get them moving and feeling good?
Yeah, we do 2 or 3 drills like this before every practice, whether it's a practice or morning skate, and then we get into some shots. So they take 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Both goalies, bang them out pretty quick, but it's just a way to get the feet going, the edges going. Every day we do.
A quick introduction for our guest. Most of you will know him from raising the Stanley Cup 2 summers ago with the Washington Capitals. He is the goaltending coach of the Washington Capitals, has been there for the past 3 years in that capacity after a year with the Hershey Bears. And so that's 4 years into his pro coaching career, at least. He's already, at least from a year standpoint, surpassed his playing career. So you're going to hear Scott Murray make some jokes maybe about Lake Superior State and the Cambridge Hornets and the San Angelo Saints and Motor City Mechanics. But right now he's working in the NHL with the Washington Capitals. He's got his name on the Stanley Cup already. A guy I've had the pleasure of being on the ice with a couple of summers ago and just learned a ton from being around. Welcome to the Western Hockey League Hockey Canada Goaltending Symposium, Scott Murray.
Kevin, thanks very much. Obviously, it's an honor to be here. Dusty, thank you for having me. I think it's an awesome honor and an awesome thing to have goalie coaches, and I think we all know that it's not a huge union, and the more that we can share and support, and I learned this from Mitch right away. Sharing knowledge is a good thing for this position and to help us grow this position. So I think it's extremely important that we do this type of stuff, and really appreciate you having me here. I did go to Lake State. They recruit bad athletes and people that aren't very smart. So I'll see what I can deliver here. Actually, my buddy, you went through all the teams. My buddy said it best at my wedding in the speech. He said, for those of you who think that players that get moved from team to team aren't very good, you're exactly correct. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell. My playing career. Hopefully I can deliver a message that's a little better than I did when I played the game. So I'll get going here. My focus today is going to be tracking and kind of my experiences with it. More of a story with the goaltenders that I've been with. I've got a chance to learn it from guys like Lyle Mast and Kevin and Dustin Schwartz. So, I've gotten to know some guys that were really experienced and knowledgeable in this area, and then have obviously been able to use it with some of the goalies that I've come across. And it's been something that has been a foundation since I started learning it. And so that's kind of what I'm going to focus on today, and finding solutions through tracking and having that a big part of solutions. Whether it's, technical or developmental, situational, or foundational. So I'll go through some of our goalies: Phoenix Copley, Braden Holtby, and Ilya Samsonov are the specific guys I'm going to focus on. Vitek Vanacek gets in there a little bit, but we'll get going here. So finding solutions. So I'll go through my tracking philosophy, and I mean, no one way is the right way, but just kind of how I've made sense of it through the years, and what kind of makes me understand a little bit more. And talking to Dusty last year, he kind of helped me bring things together a little bit, and how I wanted to present this to the goalies, and how I thought it made sense, and it helped them understand the importance of tracking and kind of the priorities of how we do things in net. Then I'll go through Holtz and his kind of lateral play development and improvement through tracking, which is more situational. Cops was more of a foundational overhaul with everything kind of pointing back to tracking and vision. And then I'll dig into some of the training that I've done, and also Ilya Samsonov's development and transition from Europe to North America. I put this definition, and I looked it up last night, and to me, this kind of sums it up. Efficiency signifies a peak level of performance that uses the least amount of inputs to achieve the highest amount of output. It minimizes the waste of resources such as physical materials, energy, and time while accomplishing the desired output. And to me, tracking has done that for me as a coach, and just watching with the goalies. It's brought what we do as goaltenders and help maximize the efficiency in how we do it. So I thought it kind of fit in there, and that's where, when I think of efficiency and tracking, those two go hand in hand. So I just wanted to put that in there as we go throughout this presentation. So tracking philosophy, kind of how I've seen it, how I've built it, and how it's made sense to me in my mind, and how I deliver it to the goaltenders that I work with. What we know we have to get position behind pucks. So if we don't get position behind pucks, we know as goaltenders we're going to struggle. So that's the ultimate goal, is to get position behind pucks in whatever situation or scenario it is. And when I mean position, it's not only where you are on the ice, but how you stand and how you look on the ice in your body position, because from there, then you can execute the right way. So not just where you stand, but how you stand is the important part of position behind pucks. And if we can do that consistently, it's harder for guys to score. We know we have to move to get in position. And we look for the most efficient way to travel and be set. And when I mean set, I don't mean stopped motion. I mean set. So if I take a still frame of a guy in his stance before something happens, he's in a good set position with his stance. When I take a still frame of a guy in motion through his movement, he's set. So at any point, whether he's stopped or in motion, ideally stopped, but if he's in motion, he's still in a good set position to execute and do the things he needs to do, regardless of being stopped or not stopped. And that gives us time, which we talk about, and Lyle talks about a lot, eliminating delay and having access to make saves and to fill net. And then the last thing, and I think this is where Dusty and I talked last year, and we talked about priorities, and a lot of goalies have talked about, I got to get in position, I got to move, but vision has kind of been, left in the background a little bit. But as we've seen goaltenders evolved and the position evolve, especially over the recent years, and I give the Western Hockey League a lot of credit and the guys in that area on bringing this in. Vision is such a huge part. Like in anything in life, we would never walk across the street without looking first. We would never move into the street and try to find a position in the middle of the street without looking first. And it's the same thing in net. And I think tracking has brought light to that. So I think vision needs to lead the way in whatever we do. Just like every other movement in life. The one thing that we've seen in net and in different sports, you set up your body differently to maximize what you do in that sport. And how we track and how we see in goaltending is different than how we see in real life. For goaltending, everything that is dangerous to us for the most part is down in front and coming at us. And in life, most of the stuff that is dangerous to us is up and moving out. So we're moving into that. So there's a difference in how we position our head and how we move our head in order to maximize how we see in net and our vision in net. And that's an important part, because it's not just about seeing, it's about how we see that maximizes the movement and our position. So that's an important part. So when I say vision, obviously tracking down is kind of that buzzword or that buzz phrase that is the correct way for us to see in net, because we want to see the ice from the puck into our body versus seeing the ice from the puck out, which we do in normal life. Everything that's dangerous to us in net is down in front and coming at us. So that's an important distinction between, seeing and tracking the right way. And so when I say vision, I mean tracking down the way a goaltender should to maximize his vision and how he sees, as well as the byproduct, how he moves and how he gets positioned. So that process, now we kind of flip it. Vision leads the way. And when I say vision, tracking down leads movement, which leads position. And it's a continuous process, whether it's before the save happens or before the execution happens, during the execution or during the save, or after it. It's a continuous process. I need vision to be able to move into position, and then I need vision to be able to move properly into a save, and then I need vision to move properly into the next position after the save or after the execution. So that's kind of how I've broken it down. Obviously, other guys are going to, have it kind of drawn up in their head differently, but that's how I've kind of organized it. And it's made sense to me, and it's made sense to the guys that I talk to about it. So this is where, and Schwartzy talked about this a lot, pregame skate for us. We don't get a ton of practice time, so we had to build these habits in pregame skate. So there's 3 drills, and we'll just run through them, that we worked on, building that track, building that priority of tracking. One is coming from his knees up to his feet, then the other one's going up to down, and then we did some recovery stuff as well. But here's kind of the progression that we'd use. So you can start to see now he's starting to turn his head, track, and now he's facing the puck right away. So we just did this drill every pregame skate. We'd go on the ice at home. And over time, you start to build habits that allow you to close holes on pucks better. And now things are starting to funnel in at him, okay? Because he's tracking, he's looking at the puck right away. So now he's squared. Now things start to funnel in and feel like they're coming into you versus coming away from you. And it's not perfect, and he wasn't perfect because he's still Braden Holpen. He does some things where he's got some skills that he can get away with some things, but what he did is he started to implement his head into his movement, right? That priority of having your head and your track in your movement or in your slides or in your recovery, it was part of what he did now versus the head being a byproduct of what his body did. It was starting to be involved and connected to the rest of his body. So you can see his head starting to come down. Now he's creating that rotation. Now he's getting his body to these pucks versus just his leg and his hand. So even though he's going a little bit first with his body, that head's still coming down and still creating that rotation. And now we went to this. So now we've got unpredictable. So those are unpredictable plays. Now we got, those were predictable plays. Now we got unpredictable plays. At the start, he was guessing, he was going early. By the end, it was hard, really hard. And our guys tried. It was really hard to deceive him. And you can see on every single one, that head comes down. So I'll start to go over the goalies now. I'll start with Holtz and kind of go over his development in this area and where we use tracking to attack. So the big thing with Holtz is he's unbelievable when he sees the puck and he's set and the puck is more in straight lines. He's extremely effective at eliminating stuff from going behind him. He's one of the best in the league at making saves on shots, whether they're from, the outside or in a dangerous area. When he's set, when he sees it, he's probably going to stop it for the most part, regardless of the danger. What was plaguing him a little bit was when things would go in zigzags or diagonals or there was lateral plays. And that's where you could see kind of the efficiency and the drop in save percentage. So that was an area we looked at in the 17-18 season as, a chance to get better and maybe a chance to find 4 or 5 extra saves in the playoffs that can, drive our team to a couple extra wins or an extra win in a series that made the difference. So when I looked at his lateral play during the regular season, it was around 61%, his save percentage. In the postseason, he improved that to 70%. That's around 4 saves over the period of a time. And obviously in a playoff scenario, that's a big number of saves. I think it's around 20 to 25 across the season. That's an important, jump for any goalie to make in a playoff season, these 4 saves. And that the byproduct of that was his ability to make saves on even, more high danger situations, which helped kind of propel us to success and make him very consistent from round to round, regardless of who we were playing. So I'll go through kind of some of the stuff that I saw early and some of the stuff that plagued him, and then we'll look at some of the adjustments he made. And tracking was a big part of taking this lateral play and making it better. So this is in the regular season. And this is some of the things that he would get into. He would sit down, kind of get focused on the shot. Once he sat down, his head would come off the puck. And now any of these lateral plays or these options that he didn't necessarily recognize, he would play this like a shot, anticipate it. The puck gets underneath him because he's not tracking down properly. And so he loses a little bit of that release on that pass. And now he goes down like it's a shot, but really it's a pass. And these are some of the things I saw early in the season. And we attacked as time went on. So this is kind of the same situation, shop and compare. Half wall in the playoffs here behind traffic. This puck goes east-west. And now instead of dropping or sitting down and anticipating, now he can track that puck and track it down and now turn on it and find that proper movement and proper position behind the puck, which is a big save at 1-1 in game 2 when we were already down 1-0 in the series. So another scenario here, and this is an area where he would probably go down automatically off the post, start to move into position, and then bring vision into it or tracking down into it after, which was normally too late. So here's a good example of that guy coming east-west behind the net. He passed it, Holtz tracks down. Now he sees it really well, which allows him to move efficiently on his feet, first into position, flat across the goal line, and then make a big save in that series, tied 2-2. Now we're going from his blocker to his glove. This is in the regular season. Same thing. He's sitting down. He's getting wide. He's starting to kind of prepare to save and use his anticipation versus seeing this and then allowing his vision to lead the way. He wanted to sit down. His head comes off the puck, and now his anticipation says shot. And then this guy delivers a pass, and he starts to go in a direction that doesn't really make sense to what's happening because he doesn't see the puck and see where that desired outcome on that pass is. Same situation on the power play against Tampa in playoffs. This guy goes east-west. He gets around on it, sees it, vision leads the way. Now he can turn. Now he gets his body square quicker, holds his edges, and makes that save on Kucherov on the power play. East-west here on a pass from the half wall. And this is one thing we worked on a lot with drills, is especially coming up to down from his feet into a slide. His ability in the playoffs and later in the season to track down on these pucks, you'll see him track down. That turns his upper body. So that's the one thing when we talk about vision, yes, we want to see, but we got to see the right way in net, and tracking down is so important because A, you see as well as you can. B, it starts to automatically produce rotation in the shoulders, which if we talk about movement, it takes care of a lot of things at once without having to overthink and have 3 different things in your mind. That tracking down takes care of seeing very well, but also rotating those shoulders and squaring up and using the most efficient movement to gain position on these pucks. Here's a play just on the power play. So that seam pass. So we go double seam pass here, which caused him a lot of problems. So he's in not a bad position here. You can tell he's sitting, his head's off the puck a little bit. So when this puck goes quickly back against the grain to that guy in the middle, his first instinct is to move and to move his foot versus track down and see it and now gain automatic rotation with that upper body, which now obviously keeps his foundation underneath him a little bit more and come across tight, which is, you know, such a big thing for him, pushing and pulling and becoming compact, but it's hurt in this scenario because he doesn't track down. What happens when you don't track down, your head stays off the puck, your shoulders stay squared from where the puck came from, and now your instinct is to open up and reach. And obviously the more holes that we give, the more you'll find, the more the guys will find them. So here's another scenario. This is a big save for us. It's 3-3. It's 2-2 in that series. It's 3 minutes left. And the result is after this save, Ovi comes down and makes a pass to V and or Verana, and we score to go up 4-3 and win that game. So almost another double seam play here. So this puck goes east-west. He leads with vision. That gets him turned. That allows him to understand I can stay on my edges here and move the right way there to get position. Now this guy holds the puck, comes back across, and now you can see his head come down versus the one on the Islanders where his head stays up and his automatic instinct would be to reach, but now he tracks down. That helps him gain rotation and keep his upper body square to the puck or get it square to the puck quicker. And now he can close off that 5-hole and something that he's so big on, which is pushing and pulling and getting tight with that butterfly. So that was Holtz, and that's kind of what we use tracking a lot to you know, really attack a lateral play scenario, a situational scenario to help him improve in that area. And it's something that, you know, allowed him to make some bigger saves, maybe that he didn't make before in that playoff run. We played some pretty good offensive teams, and just those saves and those ability to make those types of saves throughout the playoffs was an important part for him and kind of maximizing what he can do in the net. Where I'll go from here, so we've looked at obviously a lateral scenario and improving a situational scenario, going to a foundational scenario with cops. I'll show some of the training that I've done more recently this year. And part of it was, how do I set the drills up to be the teachers? How do I get these drills to kind of deliver the message that I want to deliver without talking so much? I mean, it gets to a point, I'm sure you guys can back me up on this, but it gets to a point where you're trying to figure out, how do I coach without overcoaching? How do I say enough without saying too much? And trying to figure out drills, especially with tracking, because it's not always easy for guys, because it is a change in how they see and how they hold their head and how they move their head. It is a change and it's not easy at times. So I just wanted to try to set up drills that automatically brought the focus on vision and tracking early in the practice. So it would be before I would start my goalie ice, I'd do one of these drills a day just to kind of get that focus in and that understanding of how important vision is and how important tracking is. So I'll just go through, it's basically 3 drills. You can progress it however you want to. I'll let some of these run because it's a little lengthy. So I'll zip through it and let it run and talk through it. So my philosophy was to try to create belief and habits through some drills that didn't force me to coach too much or talk too much or get them annoyed by me. They're annoyed by me as enough as it is. So I wanted to stay short and stay concise and allow some of the drills to be the teachers. So I'll just go through some of these categories and how it looked and the drills I used for each of these, whether it was release drills, movement drills. We get into some post-play and post-save recovery drills almost in the same one. And it's basically 3 drills that I kind of used at the beginning of goalie ice just to kind of get them focused on tracking and vision. So this is just a release drill. And I would do it at the top of the circle just because it was before goalie ice. And instead of ripping up the crease, I just did it at where I'd shoot at the top of the circle and they would stand at the dot or kind of move within that circle just to save goalie ice. That's the only reason why, or just to save the crease. So all I'm doing here is I'm just telling cops to stare at this puck and to track this puck. And I'm not giving them away where I'm shooting, when I'm shooting. And sometimes I'll hold on to it for a while. Sometimes I'll zip it right away. But I'm trying with my shooting skills, trying to release it without as much, without giving as much away as possible. So all he's doing is just tracking this puck. And then I'm holding on to it and I shoot and he tracks it. And what I found is when I could get guys just focused on vision, they would be 100% accurate. Sometimes they would shift, sometimes they would stand up, but they would be accurate in how they would execute. So I'll let these drills run. It'll switch from goalie. Now this is Holtz, and he's obviously not as much of a tracker as Kops at this point, but all I'm doing is watch this puck, get good vision on this puck, and they don't know where it's going or when it's coming. And it kind of forced them to just use vision to lead the way versus trying to anticipate and get into the save before that shot got off my stick. Here's Sammy. So you can see that shift there. I'm not telling him where I'm going. I'm trying to be as unpredictable as possible. Now I just add a little movement into it to try the same thing. So right away, focus on the puck. I can shoot at any point. I can hold on to it. I can shoot, and I can shoot anywhere. So there's just a little movement added to that drill. So you can see on Sammy, and I'll highlight the tracking down here a little bit. You can see on Sammy how he's obviously working to see the puck first, but he's not quite tracking down to create that rotation and to help that movement and to make that movement as efficient as possible. You can see he's turning his head, he's getting some vision on the puck, but it's not coming down as much as he should, which is eliminating that upper body from rotating. So for sure there's improvements, but what I found is just having vision on the puck would help them getting focused, or would help them get focused on seeing it. And then we could talk about, okay, here's how you see it better. Here's, as a goaltender, how you can maximize your vision, which then obviously drives movement better and drives position better. So now he would come in and then back up, kind of get into his fade, and then I would just hold on to the puck. I could shoot it earlier, I could shoot it late. And this one, I hold it late, and you can see he's not moving. And the one telltale sign for me is if you look at his body, he doesn't break his stance at all. When guys start to break their stance and anticipate shots, that's where you start to see guys sitting down or start to widen out or start to change their body position, which tells me they're anticipating a shot. And now the focus is shifted from vision and tracking to I got to move and I got to make a save before that puck leaves the stick. And then that shifting and that moving the body into it automatically without knowing where or when it's coming is another telltale sign for me. And it didn't really matter what goalie was in. It still produced the desired results. Now I'm just going in with Kops, almost like a breakaway. He's matching my speed and the gap. Now this is just Holtz coming out at me, just in a forward drift. So I've just tried to progress it in a way that it's a little different, but it still kind of has the same focus and the same outcome. Again, Holtz would be a guy that would want to sit and get low and kind of anticipate that shot and start to go where he thinks it might go versus letting vision lead the way.